Next item.
All right. The first item is good news and recognition because we don't have an executive session today.
So for good news and recognition, she stepped out for a call, but I wanted to welcome and introduce our new assistant town manager, Sarah Bennett. If you want to come up and just introduce yourself.
So good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I finally made it, so I'm happy to be here. It's been a good first 2 days. Glenn has really kind of helped to acclimate me to the position, and there's still a lot more to learn, but I'm excited to report that I've met with a lot of the department heads so far. So that's sort of my goal for the first week, is to hopefully meet everybody. We're working on that. And that's pretty much where I stand. Just getting to know the building, getting to know the people, and the culture of Lisbon, and just very happy to be here.
Where do you call home?
I call Lewiston home.
You're in Lewiston right now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I live in Lewiston. Very short drive from me,
Yeah,
though,
sure.
so it's convenient.
Absolutely.
And
Nice.
great. Thank
Do you
you.
like your office?
I love it. I have a door.
Nice.
Nice. Good, good.
Thank you.
Well, welcome
you.
aboard.
Welcome.
Any other good news or recognition?
Mr. Chair, may I suggest that we move an item from other business to the top of the agenda? The item is Commissioner Mason's update from the County Commission.
Yes. Do we need a vote on that, or do you want to?
No, you can just decide.
Mr. Mason?
Well, I appreciate it. You didn't have to do that, but
It's all right. We know you're busy.
it's all right. You can spend the rest of the night if you want.
Okay. I don't think I'll do that. But, well, members of the council, thank you for having me tonight. I wanted to come and talk to you guys about the county budget and give you some of my suggestions. Last time I was here in the spring, Don, you were in Hawaii,
Yes.
so I was a little jealous of that. But
But I heard you.
good. I'm glad. We just talked about county government in general. I did not know that former commissioners hadn't ever come to the council and talked to you all. So I'm happy to do that from time to time. This kind of felt like a good time to do it. This is the start of the county's budget process. And we just completed basically a month-long review of the county administrators and our department heads' budget, what they propose to us every year. You have with you, Lisa got it together in very short order, a few pieces of paper that I'd like to go over with you. There's extras here, if you all would like copies as well. There's really, I tried to find a way to sum up this binder into what you have in front of you. You guys can ask me any questions you want when we're done, but there is a couple of items that I'd just like you guys to be aware of, and there's some items that I'd like your input on. The first thing I'll say is that the county, our only taxpayer is the towns and the cities in Androscoggin County. We don't have the power of taxation outside of sending you all a bill. So I feel it is incumbent on me to very strictly interpret what the county's responsibilities are, and anything that's outside of that, I think it's important to get your take on it. So that's what I'm going to do tonight. So the first thing that you have in front of you is just the commissioner, the county administrator's letter to us. This outlines a lot of what, basically just an overview, an executive summary of the budget. We did see an increase, we're looking at an increase of about a little over 7% in county expenditures this year. That's pretty good considering what we've had to deal with over the past few years as a county. We've had a lot of issues in the jail. We've had a lot of issues with the building at large, but a lot of the things that really what has saved us is the county has been very wise in using our ARPA funding to make long-term investments in things that matter at the county. The ARPA funding, we do have to spend it just like everybody else does. We have to have a place for it by 2024, and it has to be expended by 2026. We still have a large amount of money, which I will get to in a minute, and why we have money left. But we have been very judicious in how we've been spending that money and making sure it's things that are going to last us a long time, not really using it for positions or salary raises or things like that that other folks have done. We've really kept it to one-time expenditures. One of the other things that is a challenge for the county right now is jail funding. For those of you who don't know, the county doesn't necessarily own our own jail. I mean, we have a jail and we're responsible for it. But as far as what we can raise for funds and how it's operated is really done under the consolidated system with the state. The state back in the early 2000s did the one system change, and they took over all of the county jails and were basically responsible to be part of that system, and the state gets to have all the control. Part of that is they fund the jails, but I can tell you when I served in the legislature, I was chair of the Criminal Justice Committee, there's never enough. And Androscoggin is one of the counties that we always end up getting more people sent to us than we actually send out to other people, and it's just because we're one of the bigger counties. So the jail is always a challenge. This year, the state government in the budget flatlined the budget, so there was no expenditure increase, but there was also no increase in what they're paying the county. That is going to be a problem. We're probably going to run out of cash. Next year, there's already a bill in front of the legislature to increase that amount, and the County Commission Association is also going to champion a bill to kind of put the screws to the state a little bit and say, if you guys want control of this stuff, then you're going to have to fund it at a higher level. So that's something that we'll be actively watching. But as a flat line of the jail, you can't predict crime. You can't predict how many people are going to be in jail. You can do your best to mitigate it, but you don't always know how many people are going to be in the jail at any given time. We have a lot of challenges inside the jail building itself, as well as the county building. A lot of those things have to be done no matter what. The safety concerns, obviously, for a variety of issues. So we're keeping a close eye on the jail right now. Revenues on the county side have decreased a little under 12%. A lot of that comes to the slowdown in the real estate market. One of the big sources of revenue for the county is Registry of Deeds and recordings. We saw a big real estate boom, and then it slowed down, so you're not recording as many deeds. There's a couple of other items that why that's the case, but we have seen revenues fall a little bit. The tax rate, we don't know what that's going to be yet. I'll kind of walk through how that process works, but in 2023 we did see the state valuation increase significantly, which
No, it's not working very well, so I'm going to
Okay.
give you this one.
Okay, I can do that.
We're getting a stamp.
Okay. All right. I kind of feel like a lounge singer.
I appreciate it if you didn't sing.
You know, when I was in high school, I wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. I dodged that. All right, we'll try this out. All right, so that's much better. So we did have a large valuation change in the county at large, and that decreased the mill rate. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. The county administrator walked us through why. I think that you're going to see the county tax more towards the 2022 rate rather than the 2023 rate, and she breaks that down here. We do have some other challenges with the county in regards to just not having the fund balance where it needs to be. We don't have some of the building issues cleared up that we need to clear up, which we'll talk about in a minute. But we have submitted a budget to the budget committee. They will start reviewing it, I believe, tomorrow night is their first meeting. So they'll start reviewing it, they'll suggest their changes and send it back. The next page in this packet that I gave you is kind of the short balance sheet of the county. It's the tax levy. You'll see that the change year over year is about 1.3 million, a little less. The amount raised by taxation is going to be around $14 million. And that's obviously based on valuation and what, the mill rate will reflect whatever, whatever Lisbon's share of property values is. So that's what we're looking at right now. I do want to give a couple of highlights about the budget. One thing that I am quite proud that we did this just the other night at our last commission meeting, you probably saw it in the news. Route 4 is a disaster. One of the big responsibilities of the county is public safety. The county does have overall public safety charge of all the 14 towns in Androscoggin County, but when people implement police departments, that becomes their responsibility. And in the absence of a local police force, we do have a responsibility to the citizens to make sure that the streets are safe. Route 4 is now the most dangerous road in the state, especially the stretch between Auburn and Livermore Falls. We're going to hire a full-time officer, a full-time sheriff's deputy to patrol Route 4 only. We actually switched service over, and we have a full-time deputy on the road as of this week, and there's been a significant slowdown. They have their lights on. They're very much taking it seriously. So that's something that I think is good for the county as a whole, and I think it'll drive down really dangerous activity that happens on Route 4, especially in that stretch. We have put on hold any building improvements at the county, any large building improvements, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Last time I was here, we talked about the county, the Route 4 property that was purchased through ARPA funds that we're hoping will be the sheriff's, the new sheriff's station. As you know, the city of Auburn has chosen to deal with that situation a little hostily. The county commission put a bill into the legislature to address that situation. The state and local government committee was kind to us, and they were going to vote it out unanimously that basically Auburn can't stop us from moving in there. The city asked for a little bit of mercy. We gave that to them. We're in active negotiations with the city to move that effort forward and get what we need done so that the sheriff's department can move into that building. Part of that is as we've gone through this process, especially with ARPA funds, we've reevaluated some situations with the building. We need a new HVAC system. There's a lot of issues with the county building. The HVAC system alone was going to cost us $9 million, and there was only one contractor in the state who was willing to even do the job. That got us thinking about maybe we should start looking into what a new building looks like for the next 150 years. So the county organized a building committee basically to research what it would look like to get into a new county building, and if it was valuable to stay in that building that we're currently in. They've been meeting every couple of weeks and going through the needs of every department and finding out, what it would take to get something in line. So that's something that we're looking at, and while we're doing that, and before that committee comes out with their recommendations, we're going to pause any major improvements to the county building, which I think is a wise use of taxpayer dollars. We also have another issue with another one of our rentals, the district attorney's office. It's been almost a year. The roof of it essentially ripped off and poured a bunch of water into the district attorney's office. We, for about 6 months, could not get in touch with the landlord, and during that time, the elevator broke. So you have the district attorney's office, which is on the 3rd floor of Lisbon Street in Lewiston, and you basically had an access to justice issue because anybody who was handicapped could not get to the district attorney's office. We did send a letter through the county's legal representation to basically say you have to fix the elevator. You can't let our staff get rained on like we signed a lease with you. They were very non-responsive even after that. Senator Collins' office got involved because her office is also in that building in Lewiston. So I think there's been some movement, but we also just heard that the state has purchased the building and is planning to utilize it for their own devices because it's next door to the court. So we will have to find a place to put our district attorney's office. And there's some parameters in the law of where it has to be in relation to the court. So that's another issue that we'll probably be dealing with
Is
soon.
that the old bank building you're talking
It
about?
is, Depositors Trust. Yep. Final two things. We did hire a new county administrator, and the new county administrator is the same as the interim county administrator, Cleese Proctor. She's doing a great job. She's also acting as interim treasurer, which was the job she came from. So she's been pretty hard worked for the past year or so. And we are searching for a new treasurer. So hopefully that will come together soon and will lighten her load. But the final thing I wanted to let you know about was on the final page, and this is your budget committee list. So we are District 4. Both of the folks on the budget committee are from Sabattis. Their term ends, I believe, next year. So when that happens, we'll be sure to let all towns know that they have the right to send somebody to the budget caucus and get someone elected. But these are the folks who represent this commission district right now, so you guys are aware of that.
Garrett?
Yes.
Chair, if I may, do you actually speak to these people much at all, or do you know them personally?
Not, we will starting this week. It's the budget committee only meets, 4 weeks a year. So
I mean, do you think it's a unreasonable ask for us to invite these people over to one of our meetings and actually have discussions? Or, I mean, we have had in the past and we have no response, so I'm just going to...
I mean, you
They
guys
represent
can
us,
obviously,
but-
you guys can obviously do whatever you want. But I'm happy to keep coming back and update you on all of this stuff. I'm going to Wales and Sabattis as well to let them know. I have a little bit different view of how the budget committee works than maybe some of my other commissioners do. The budget committee, in my opinion, is advisory. And so they get to look at the budget after we're done with it, make some suggestions. We do tend to take most of them, but last year we did not take all of them. One of the bigger things in the budget last year was a COLA increase, and I had a massive issue with what the budget committee had been doing in those suggestions. They were essentially treating COLA increases as raises, and I don't think that's fair to employees. I think employees should have a track every year based on merit to success, in their salaries. I don't think that we should be creating a culture where county employees have to come and beg for a COLA because they can't get a raise. So, we had a big disagreement in there, and we ended up going with a mediated suggestion. So I think you can have them.
Yeah.
I think in the end the commission will decide what the budget is.
So we need to keep leverage with you. Those are the key factors, what you're saying.
I didn't say that. No. I mean, I think
I know what you're saying.
I mean, I think you can. And with the budget committee too, I've found, and I don't know anything. I'm not saying this about these two members, but I know a lot of people forget they're on the budget committee. And when it comes time to ramp up again, it's like, oh yeah, I got to do that. And I know they've had trouble with quorum every once in a while, making sure there's enough people to be there. So, I mean, I would definitely reach out. I plan on reaching out this week and just offering my help. So, absolutely.
Thank you.
And I will mention a couple more things. I know I don't come often, so I try to get it all ramped in one meeting. But there is a few other items and that I would like your input on as a council. I feel that county government is, in Maine especially, is unique in that we don't have a lot of power. We don't have a county school board. We don't do county roads. We don't do a lot of the things the other counties do around the country. But there has been some things put in the budget that I don't really believe is fair to put in the county budget without some input from you all. And there's three things. AVCOG, the UMaine Cooperative Extension, Historical Society, and Western Maine Transportation. Those four items are not items that fall in the county's purview. Because you guys are all members of those associations, like the towns are members of those organizations and they pay into those things. The county does as well, but we just turn around and hand a bill to you. It's not, I'll use AVCOG for example. I'm on the executive board of AVCOG. And there is not any services, and I can show you that document, there is not any services that the county uses from AVCOG. We don't do environmental surveys. We don't do, there's planning and all this stuff. It's just not in the purview of the county. We have recommended that we withdraw from AVCOG. That's $8,000 a year. It's not a lot of money, but if we're not going to use it, I don't know if there's any sense in doing that. The UMaine Cooperative Extension, Counselor, I know that you're the vice chair. Is that right?
What?
You're the vice chair of the extension, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I had a long conversation with the folks from the extension that came to the budget committee. I have no issues with the services they provide. In fact, my family has utilized some of those services, especially some of the gardening services and whatnot. It's awesome. But the county does not have the resources and services to come alongside the University of Maine Cooperative Extension to help them. Those are better situated with towns. Now there's some reasons that the county does have to fund them at some level because of the federal government requires the counties to, but it is not really greatly in line with what we do as a county. The Historical Society, they moved out of the building this year. They used to occupy the third floor, the top floor of the building, whatever floor that is. They've asked for a $50,000 appropriation for the budget this year. I'm not sure that's appropriate. They're not in the building any longer. It would be a large increase. We used to give them $5,000 a year, and now they want $50,000 ongoing, and it's just not something that we can do. And Western Maine Transportation, it's awesome. There's great services here in Lisbon, but once again, it's not in the purview of the county. We don't have the resources to help them complete their mission. Those four things and I'll just be perfectly frank with you, we just passed the bill on to you. So my suggestion would be I would love to see those monies come out of the taxpayer coffers here in Lisbon as an appropriation. I do believe that a lot of these items will be funded in the budget this year, but I would suggest to the council that these four associations, that you invite them in at some point and engage with them directly, because I think it's a better use of taxpayer dollars. Because like I said, we just turn around and hand the bill to you. So that's my presentation. It was long, I'm sorry. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I have my full binder here, so I can go in line by line, anything you want to know. But thank you for your time.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I got a few questions.
Yes.
If you have, and I'm sure some other people too. Since some of the articles have been out in the paper, we've been getting some information feedback just from some of the taxpayers having some different questions. And one of them is the first thing that totally agree that Route 4 is a concern out there.
Yeah.
I don't think we ought to be paying for it as a county as a whole. I mean, hopefully that bill is being passed on to Turner. And if it's being paid by the county, I kind of argue the fact of like Western Maine Transportation, other things that we share costs with, that if it's a county aspect for one town, and if it's service for that town is actually paying the bill for it. Mm-hmm. Not that I don't think Route 4 ought to be safe. I think 196 ought to be safe, and I think us as taxpayers pay pretty dearly to keep 196 safe, mm-hmm. and I think other communities ought to be doing the same. I don't think we ought to be subsidizing other communities keep their taxes low to have safe roads. And that's just my opinion, which is it's opinion of people I represent too, because I've got some feedback from it. So
I totally.
I've heard the same thing.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I'm not naive to the fact that it's a problem that has been ongoing for decades. And this is how I came to my decision on that. Like I said when I was talking about that issue, the county is the overall authority for law and order and public safety in the county. That's very clearly laid out in the Constitution. Our role as, well, not our role, but the sheriff's department role and the responsibility for law and order falls on him. The state law does indicate that local towns can have a police force if they wish. We have chosen to. I'm very happy that Lisbon has chosen to, as has Sabattis and a couple other towns around the county as well. I would agree with you. I think that certain towns should be entering into some sort of agreement with the sheriff's office like Poland has done, or perhaps consider opening their own police department. But they have chosen not to. And that's their decision. I can't force them to do that. But what I have to do is make sure that the road is safe, and it's not. So I agree with you. I would encourage this council to make that known to whatever communities you decide that is the case for, because I don't disagree that people should be pitching in. But in that absence, it is the job of the county to fill that role.
So I know there's other communities around us that have actually reached out and just got price tags that they weren't able to achieve to actually, 136 in Durham is actually a bad road.
Yeah.
So I think if you start picking on roads, don't get me wrong, Route 4 is a major throughway, but with that becomes responsibilities of the throughway where it belongs, you would think. But again, I'm not picking on the idea that we need to be safe, but we're talking about budget issues and the idea of cutting back on budgets and not having enough money to take care of the needs for the commissioners just to vote something like that without actually trying to figure out where the difference is. Seems like we get squeezed a lot as a community, and now we tend to be subsidizing other communities so they can be safe. And you may not look at it that way, and I understand that the duty of the county is to make sure the whole county is safe, but it's one of those things where I think communities need to figure out what they're responsible for, and even on that aspect, even the, budgetary wise, looking at what the county does for dispatching for the communities and stuff, and it'd just be interesting to see if their budget actually represents a true cost of what it does for other communities, because even that they still have that same responsibility, but there is a charge with other communities for doing very similar services that are either make or break a life-saving situation, right? So, again, I guess as you represent us, I would just be hoping that you actually do think about that everything that is done, it comes with a cost, and where that cost is being spreading to, and what happens if everybody wants that. So, if would the county, just in a matter of one meeting, start patrolling 196? It probably wouldn't be, right? Because it'd probably be a decision that we maybe have our own, but yet.
And like I said, I think it doesn't matter what road it is; it's the responsibility of the county. And there's more to this as well. The state, the way that Rural Patrol works in a town like Turner or Minot, is it's split. So usually it's a month on and a month off. So the state police will cover 1 month in a town, and then they'll switch with the county, and the county will cover that town for a month. The state has decided that they will no longer be doing that.
Correct.
So it is up to the county to essentially patrol all of the rural area for the time being, basically starting next year. So that decision plays into that as well. Is you have to realize that the police force in the county has been split in half with essentially no warning. They told us that. Luckily, we don't have a ton of area to cover in comparison to other counties. Penobscot County, they're dealing with 54 towns and townships that they have to cover, and there's a mountain range in between, and they have to set up another tower. So, our problems in comparison to somebody like theirs is not a big deal, but that is also something the county is facing, is that when the danger of a road like Route 4 or 196 or 136 in Durham, like all those roads are dangerous. They're probably going to get more dangerous because the state's decided not to do state police patrol anymore. So I don't disagree, but my role as a county commissioner is part of its public safety in places that I don't represent. So it's Wales has that issues, and there's other counties, other places as well.
And I totally agree with that. I think the biggest thing would be is I just ask you to be concerned about the idea of these areas that are missing patrol, right? They're known. I mean, Durham was the same thing on and off the state police. Now, that's been, quite some time. The state police hasn't been patrolling out there.
Well, they
but-
won't take the calls.
Huh?
They won't take the calls
Oh, I
anymore.
know.
So yes, they have been on,
But they're not
but
there.
they just don't take the calls.
Exactly. But
So-
I guess with that being said, I think the county really ought to get a committee or whatever they need to do to actually look at these areas and just figure out which ones need patrol and how much patrol they need, and actually, as they do other communities, put a price tag to it. I mean, if you're telling us now that your county patrol needs to double because the areas are not covered, and that's going to come on the county budget, I would just have a hard time with that. So again, it's not an easy answer. There's no answer there, I know. But it's just one of those things. Just be aware that we're actually, as council, dealing phone calls, the idea of saying, at what point do we stop, kind of like you talking about AvCog.
Yeah.
People talk to us about the county the same way. So.
And send them to me.
Yeah.
I've been in this. I'm a big boy. I've been in this business a long time. I can take a phone call.
Yep.
So I mean, send them along to me. My phone number's widely available, probably too available to be honest with you. But I mean, that's.
And I didn't invite you. We didn't want you here tonight to hammer on you. It was just sharing opinions. The if I may, I just.
Burn
go-
if this is hammering.
Oh, it's not. No,
I'll take
but
it.
I don't want you
Yeah.
to feel that you come here. You don't want to come here because
Yeah.
you're being. The other items I have, if I have the moment still, is the county courthouse.
Yeah.
And you're saying that you kind of stopped doing major improvements.
Yeah. Just for now.
Is the idea that that building won't be kept for the state? That will be sold as soon as things go away? Just the only reason I kind of have a concern about that is we've done that with some buildings here in Lisbon too. We're trying to get new and improved, and that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And we just end up with a long list of things that have just been put away for so long that unless we plan on getting rid of the building,
Yeah.
we shouldn't be actually holding back on maintenance. Because eventually that's going to have to be maintained if we keep it. It'd just be kind of short-sighted. That's the only thing that really concerns
don't-
me a little bit.
I'm just speaking for myself.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we would hold on to that building.
If that's a decision, I think it's a good decision what you're doing. But
Yeah.
if there's any mindset but you kind of just alluded to the idea about where the courts were or where the state's going to
Well,
be.
different court.
Yeah,
District
different
court.
Okay, district court. Okay.
Or the
The
courthouse
other one
that
on
we
Lisbon.
have.
Yeah.
So the district court has just been recently remodeled as of I think 10 years ago. The county court is beautiful, and if you haven't been inside of it, you really should. It's a gorgeous courthouse, but I don't believe the county would be interested in holding on to that building
Just
for
a thought.
these four stated reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair.
I appreciate you coming and telling us your ideas and plans. And I just wanted to say, in terms of the extension,
Yeah.
that the impact, as I understand it, would be the extension would have to do a separate budget for each town.
Not a separate budget, but so the way that I calculated it, just chicken scratch on the back of my, binder here, is $4,000 for every town. And I think that it's valuable for the extension to come in and talk about what they do and come alongside of the town. The extension, for example, did some really great stuff with the elementary school in town. I think this year and possibly last as well. But there really isn't any other towns that utilize the extension service outside of Lisbon, Lewiston, and Auburn in the way that I think is beneficial. I think that, like I said, we'll fund the extension service. I think it's valuable for them to come in here and create relationships with you all and have a small say in what the extension does. So I understand that, and
That would be quite an impact.
yeah.
the 2 meetings a year preparing the budget for Androscoggin and Saginaw is a pretty big undertaking, but trying to do it by area or by town or whatever it would be for Androscoggin County would take a lot of planning to put that into effect, I think. So I just
it
wanted
might.
to say that.
Yep, it might. And listen, I think I'm in the minority on the council, to be honest with you, with this idea. I'll just be perfectly honest with you. But when I looked into the act on a federal level and why counties are required to give money into the extension programs, is because they come alongside of already existing departments within the county. So the county school system, the county environmental programs that they might have, like with environmental permitting, things like that. They come alongside of those programs. There is no program to come alongside of in the county. Those programs all exist here within the towns. And that is the genesis of why the County Exchange Act of like 1980 something.
There are no programs that go alongside with the extension programs?
Not in the county. No.
I thought master gardening.
Yeah, but we don't have a recreation department. You know, like we have a recreation department in the town. Most other towns in Androscoggin County do. It would be better if they had impact and budget within those areas rather than at the county. And that's what the act on the federal level was designed to do.
Okay.
So,
I hear you.
Yeah. So it's not. I have no issue with the program. I have no issue with it. It is outside of what Androscoggin County.
Right. I
does,
understand that.
you know.
That you are trying to be neutral while espousing new ideas, which is difficult to do.
Yes.
So I give you credit.
Thank you. And I have, and the law does require Androscoggin County to give money to the extension, and we will obviously abide by the law. But I would invite the council to invite those folks in and say, hey, this is what we do, and I'm going to encourage the same thing to Sabattis, and I'm going to encourage the same thing to Wales. Invite them in, discover the programs, come alongside your town departments, and make the programs better. I just don't think it's in the right place at the county because we can't bring added value. That's all. No hate on the program, I promise.
Mr. Chair?
Thank you.
Just to follow up a little bit without beating up on you too much, but
That's fine.
Where I come down on the Route 4 issue is just like Fern has said, and I realize the responsibility for the county to ensure public safety in all of the county. But what I don't realize is why it is fair for certain communities to not participate in the general safety when it has to be taken up by the sheriff's department. That's just not fair. Now, if it needs correction, and maybe we need direction on how to get it corrected in the Constitution, if that's where it is, then I would hope that someone advocating for us would also advocate for that.
It's not fair, but it's the law.
I know.
And that's I completely understand that. You know, you look at, well, I'm just talking about Hawaii, right? Like you look at what happened with Hawaii. You know, they were tremendously underfunded in their emergency management at that time. That's also in the county's purview, is emergency management. You know, when a horrible tragedy struck them, they weren't ready for it. You know, we see tragedy every day on Route 4 and a lot of other areas of the county, but Route 4 is statistically the most deadly road in the state of Maine. I agree with you, it's not fair. I also stand by the fact that it's the law, and there is a need, and I think that it was appropriate to do that. Where that falls for this council is petitioning for the law to change. And I don't know what that law is. Is it if you're over a certain amount of population, that it's your responsibility to either contract with the sheriff's office or you're required to have some sort of police force on your town budget. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's, you have to have one sworn officer for every number of population. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it. But the law right now says that is optional and that it's the county's responsibility.
So the difference between the community paying for a county and for those that do not, who actually makes that decision? You said there's no basis on population or community or patrol. So an area, say like Durham, that actually would like to actually have a full-time patrol officer versus the idea of a full-time one on Route 4. Where is that just a personal choice that's made by the commission at the spur of the moment, or is that actually done by facts and by saying these are our guidelines we have to go by?
They can come and make their case. And I mean, there's no guidelines, but
So it's strictly an opinion-based decision at the commissioner.
From the sheriff and with counsel from the sheriff's department.
Gotcha. I was just curious on that because we're stating the idea of Constitution, what we need to do and what's law, but just curious on how that actually plays out at that level. You mean that, when it does and when it's not, that's all. So
yeah, go ahead, Don.
The other thing, on a different subject, I was going to say on the cooperative extension, I disagree with you on that. I think
it's fine. You can.
Because I believe it's in their charter to service everybody in the area. Whether those areas take advantage of it is not our problem. I think that they should live up to that responsibility, and therefore I think even if the county is just passing the cost down, that it should continue to pass the cost down and not put more burden on the agency.
Yeah, and that's why I came and asked for advice.
Okay.
Because I don't think it fits well within the county. I think that funding should come from the towns, but that's why I'm here asking for advice. I mean, we will fund it, I'm sure, to some extent this year, but it's not. It would be better for them to have a direct relationship with you all than us.
What about the Historical Society? I don't even understand how that.
Yeah, so the Androscoggin County Historical Society has traditionally resided in the county building. They moved out last year and purchased their own building. And they have had an appropriation, I think, it was $5,000, I believe, from the county over the years. They have asked for a $50,000 appropriation in perpetuity. That's a lot of money. The district attorney's victim witness grant is not much more than that. So I just don't. I love history, and I think it's our responsibility to preserve it. But I'm not sure that that's the best.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. Hi, Garrett.
Hey.
My question is just, what's the main driver of the 13% increase in departmental costs? Is there, what's the biggest force driving that?
So one of the bigger things that we did is, I alluded to it earlier when I was talking about COLA increases. We did a salary survey, and we created new steps for the county. It was something that has been promised for over a decade, I learned. I did not know that at the time. But I kind of made it my personal mission to adjust that.
We did the same thing here. So
yeah,
I understand.
yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So I mean, that was a small cost driver, a part of a cost driver. But like I said before, I think people should be paid for the work that they do, and it's not. The county and the town does not have a printing press. We cannot go out back and create more money. The federal government can. And that's where inflation comes from. So, the cost of everything is going up, and I think it's our responsibility to create more rungs when the ladder has been climbed. And so, I think it was about $70,000 overall. And now, county employees, they got really upset with me last year when I told them I wasn't going to do a 6% COLA. But my purpose in it is I don't think that's fair to them. I don't think it's a fair thing for non-union employees to have to come and beg for a COLA as a raise. And usually COLAs don't keep up with inflation. So it's just, I think this was a more fair way of doing it. And yes, it did result in an increase, but we have great employees at the county. and I think they deserve to be compensated fairly.
Thank you.
If I could pull the dead horse out and beat it a little bit more,
Sure.
the Turner issue.
I didn't say that. A town.
How did this? What was the genesis of this? How did this happen? Was it? I mean, my understanding was that one of the is it a select board there or a council?
Yeah, they have select board.
One of them just made a request to the commissioners.
Not to my understanding. I don't know where the idea generated from. I can tell you that it has been a topic of discussion at county meetings for the past few months, and over the past couple of weeks when I think they had 3 deadly accidents over the course of 3 days. That was when a real discussion was had. The sheriff was called in. What can we do to try to fix this? And that's kind of the way it went down. I have no knowledge of any select board person reaching out. I don't know.
I thought that's what the paper said. But
They
anyway.
might have. If they interview, I didn't read the article.
Yeah.
I was interviewed for Channel 13.
Was there? Has DOT ever done a survey of Route 4 of that corridor?
Many.
And no suggestions out of that were plausible or workable?
Not that I don't know.
I mean, I'm thinking Jersey Barrier is right down the middle of Route 4.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you.
Because a lot of them they cross the center line.
Yeah, I can tell you one thing that was brought up was reconstruction of Route 4, which isn't slated for another couple of decades. I don't know.
Jersey Barriers are pretty cheap, I think.
I don't know. That's a state decision. It's a state road. But I mean, that's certainly something I can.
The other thing,
to you about.
yeah, the other thing that I mean, if this is going to be a law enforcement officer, so I'm assuming it's going to be fully equipped cruiser equipment.
Yes. And we used ARPA funding to fund those pieces of it, the
Okay.
cruiser and the equipment they would need.
Okay. Is that officer's responsibility going to be strictly traffic on Route 4? Or is this, because I don't want to say this looks like a Trojan horse, like we're now generating another patrol officer for the county. Is he going to be available if they need a backup? Is he going to be able to get pulled from Turner to go back up?
From what
If there's a burglary in Turner, is he going to investigate the burglary?
From what we talked to the sheriff about, and this is just something we voted on Wednesday, it's not even official yet. Like if we don't, we'll know when the budget closes. That's when we'll know. I think that would be the case, that they could get pulled off, and it's the Route 4 corridor, so it's all the way up to Livermore Falls. So it's any of those towns, not just Turner.
Okay. I guess if I lived in Poland, I'd be really mad.
Well, that Poland's
Because
it's a different story.
I would be really mad.
Poland did what they needed to do for their roads, and they contracted with the county sheriff's office. So they do have sworn deputies that are responsible for Poland.
Right.
And that's, that is an option for towns to do that. So, and like I said,
Or they can get it for a little over 100. Well, for nothing, basically.
Yeah.
And everybody else can pay for it.
Make your
I
case, that's
understand.
all.
And I would encourage this council to make it known to the communities that you think this benefits that you don't think it's fair. But like I said, it falls on me as a county commissioner to do the best I can for public safety. So that's where I fall on it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
If I can add to your comment, we're going to beat this right to death.
You can.
To add to your comment, I would hope that I understand that the temporary addition of a position to cover that at 100,000 or whatever it was. I would hope that it's temporary, that there are other measures, Jersey Barrier or otherwise, that are considered
It is
more
temporary.
permanent.
So what we passed as a commission was 1 year. It is, and that was, you can go back and get my statements on that. I was the one that suggested, I think this should be a temporary measure and see if public safety has improved. And then it'll be addressed again.
just seems like there ought to be some infrastructure changes. And I realize it's a state road, but
Yeah,
but
Maybe the state ought to be patrolling it then.
yeah.
I would agree with you on that as well.
Well, and that's another thing. Back in the day, I mean, as you know, I was in law enforcement here for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And before Lisbon had radar,
Mhm.
the state police offered and don't quote me on this, but I think they were called the Eagle Team or something similar. And they would come into a town and just pound that town for a couple of weeks with traffic.
Yeah.
You know, stickers, radar, because they had all the bells and whistles. The municipalities didn't. So I thought that might be. I don't even know if they still do that.
I have no
But it
idea.
wouldn't be a bad idea to talk to them and say, you know,
What did you call
I'm just saying. Well, I mean, they had a name for the team, and I forget what they called it.
This is back
I
when Elizabeth
was-
didn't have patrol cars, or just horses.
Well, we had
Oh, that's my dad then.
we had a radar, but it was about the size of like this, and it hung off the window, and it was. But anyways, but they came into town a couple times, and just lit the town up, and everybody said, "Oh, damn."
I don't know. I'm happy to reach out to the state police about that, though.
Yeah,
I
mean,
don't
it
know.
might be worth asking them to, to say, can you put your traffic team together and come and concentrate on this stretch of Route 9, Route 4.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
light them up.
They, just considering that they pulled so much enforcement back, I don't know that they would do that, but
Must mean they have a lot of spare right now.
I don't know. I gave up answering that question in 2018. So
Yeah, I hear you.
But that's what we did until we finally got our own radar. Actually, the county had a radar, and they would loan it out to different municipalities. So we would put our name on the list and we'd get it for a week, and we'd have to give it back to them. So
yeah, listen,
that's how it worked back in something or other.
I understand your frustration. I do. And like I said, I think Lisbon has made responsible choices. Like Lisbon has done what needs to happen to have better law and order in the town. Other towns have chosen to do what they want to do. And there's no denying that Route 4 is very dangerous. Listen, Durham wants to come in and suggest something, I'm happy to listen to it. But I don't think that it's unreasonable to say that extra enforcement is needed on Route 4. And when the state is pulling back, you have to do something. So
I totally agree. I think that there's a lot of dangerous areas. It's hard for us, for the people we represent, to actually, when they get their tax bill and we're justifying why their tax bill is what it is, to say it's because we have law enforcement and made those choices to keep our community safe. And also our county taxes are high because we've made the choice to offset other people that don't want to pay it. That's the hard decision, you mean? So we're paying twice, right? We're paying for our own community, and we're paying for communities that I guess evidently want to keep their taxes low because they don't feel it's necessary for the local people to pay for their safety. That's the burden that we actually have to explain to our people. And even the county, no budget goes down, right? Because expenses always go up, but it's where those expenses lie that actually we just have to justify. That's all. That's why we're sitting here saying.
And that's sort of a bare bones bottom line of what it is. But I also understand that even though we're in Lisbon, we have our own PD, and we're pretty safe and secure. We do travel on Route 4, so I want to make sure that Route 4 is safe too.
And
if this is what it takes to do that, then I'm not against it. I just want to see. I don't know how much thought was put into it. I don't know what this officer is going to do. Could it be done? Could it be done with reserve officers working shifts? Could it be done with? The state has grant programs every year. I don't know if they still do, but they have speed grants. They have seatbelt grants.
Yeah.
They have OUI grants, and you get a lot of money in 4 or 5 hour blocks at a time and spend hours and hours and hours just on Route 4 working that grant detail.
I asked about that very question. I don't, and I need to remember what the answer was. It was specifically about the speeding grant. I need to ask the sheriff what the answer was on that because I don't have my council notes from that. But no, I think absolutely.
And the state gives you overtime to put people out there, and that's all they do. They sit there and they write tickets.
Yep.
For 4 6-hour blocks, whatever.
And that was one of the other places that I came down on it. Is like a lot of people that travel Route 4 every day, and they're not just from Turner and Auburn and.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, they're from everywhere.
They're from everywhere.
So,
yeah,
we're not.
Just like 196.
We're certainly not saying 196 is too, but I'm certainly not Route 4. But
A lot of tourists too. Maybe we ought to put a tow booth midway through, slow people down, collect some money for it. And
all about it.
speed bump. Speed.
Turn it back to
Let me see your license.
yeah, let's see your license, right? Registration plate. Mr. Chair,
Yes.
before he actually runs off, I'd like to get your input on the transportation discussion that you mentioned, because we have invited them to our budget sessions, and it is very confusing about how it gets funded and what gets funded, and I guess there were some big changes coming up in this
What about
next year.
DOT?
No, this is for the Western Maine
Oh,
transportation.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Just, they actually come in and they said there was a big change coming out, basically because the way the town was classified. Do you?
My understanding is during the last census, Lisbon periodically goes in and out of this urbanized area, and I think now we're back in the urbanized area under the FTA, so we are losing the 5311 rural funding for our area. Is that my understanding?
Western Maine is losing the funding because we were rural.
That's right. So the recent census,
So
but
the question is if there's federal governing or state and county, how's that all play out? I guess I really don't understand because I didn't realize any of that was funded by the county.
It is. It's. Hang on, I can tell you. I think it's around like $50,000.
Because we pay almost that ourselves for the Western Maine.
Yes.
Through our local budget.
It is
I mean, it's
$45,000
so you pay the same thing we do.
is what the county pays for that service.
That's county-wide then.
Yes.
It would service anybody in the county.
And I've brought some of these concerns up about how I just think it's improperly placed. And this year's letter is very much about how much good is done in Lisbon. And so, there's a whole letter, and I can share this with you guys, but it's a good service, and it's connecting people, to jobs in at Bath Iron Works and in Lewis and Auburn. It's a great service. It's just the county we're just giving you the bill, so you're
Paying
really
twice, is that what you're saying?
you're really paying what, 45,000, like you're paying 48,000.
Yeah.
So
I'm just curious how that funding, because they did mention there was going to be some big change in the upcoming year, so I was just curious on where that lies and on if you had any insight on it. That's
from
all.
what I understand, it is because Lisbon is now an urban area instead of a rural area. Glenn's absolutely right. But beyond that, I don't really. It's a little beyond me.
So the 45 the county pays, is that just a general?
Just a straight appropriation.
Yeah, this is what it is, and this actually helps subsidize the communities
Yeah,
around.
where they have the lines.
Yep, gotcha. Thank you.
Anything else? We appreciate you coming.
No problem.
Come weekly
forward
if you
to
want.
having
This could be fun.
Forward to having you again.
Come back, yep.
I'm not too bad of a debater. So.
No, you do well. Thank you for coming in.
I do appreciate it. I understand the concerns. But we'll look at voting on the budget usually end of October, early November. We'll go from there.
Is there any way that you could somehow work with the state so the speeding tickets could go directly to offset the officer on Route 4? Because I think you pretty much could fund that within a short period of time. If you were straight up be able to say it's a $100 ticket, I'll take it now. I mean, if that officer, I think he could generate his own salary, I guess is what I'm pointing. Because if that road is as fast as what I think it is,
That's like down south.
you could do pretty well.
That's
So,
okay. All right.
kind of like a toll booth, but in a different way.
Yeah,
right?
like the Route 4 tax.
There you go, right?
Yeah.
Speeding tax.
Yeah.
You could put it that way, right?
Go.
Good.
Well, thank you all. I appreciate
Thank you,
your time.
Garrett. Appreciate you coming.
Bigger ways of getting this money done, right?
That's right.
Next item.
Next item is public hearing. This is for a mass gathering permit for the Lisbon Falls Art Walk.
I'll open that public hearing. Seeing nobody in the audience except our assistant town manager, I'll close that public hearing. Next item.
Next item is audience participation and response for agenda items.
Nothing. Next item.
Next item is the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered routine and will be considered for adoption by one motion with no separate discussion unless a counselor requests an item be removed. Any counselor wishing to remove an item may do so now. Seeing none, order 2023-175 to approve municipal accounts payable warrants, $474,903.34. Municipal payroll warrants, $219,399.35. I see an error. Hang on one sec. That total for municipal payroll warrants is $219,329.75. The school accounts payable is $251,399.35. The school payroll warrant is $399,595.16. The mass gathering permit for Lisbon Falls Art Walk, the minutes of August 15, 2023, to set a public hearing for October 3rd for medical manufacturing facility renewal for 207 edibles, to set public hearings for October 3rd for itinerant vendor and victualler licenses for Bowlicious and Queenie's Vending, and to set a public hearing for October 3rd for adult use marijuana manufacturing license for River Driver Cannabis Company.
Makes a motion to approve.
A second.
All in favor?
Order passed, vote 7-0.
Next item.
Next item is council orders, resolutions, and ordinances. Order 2023-176 to award the 2023 sidewalk snow removal contract.
Make a motion for discussion?
Second.
So we recently went out to bid for snow removal for the sidewalks and crosswalks. We received 2 bidders, and the low bidder was Four Seasons, a contractor known to us who's done it the past couple of years. I recommend awarding the contract to Four Seasons. The other bidder came in with an hourly rate, which we can't really pinpoint, so this one was lower and a flat rate. I do ask when authorizing the approval, give me the flexibility to kind of tighten up the contract language, because I know we've had some issues with that contractor, whether it be delayed response to storms or not adequately clearing the snow from certain areas. So I'd like to specify in the contract also include some liquidated damages so we can kind of have some teeth when things aren't cleared to our satisfaction. And also if when talking to the contractor, if they can keep the rate flat, have the option to extend it beyond 1 year so we don't have to go out to bid again next year. But I understand it's probably not possible that he can guarantee pricing over the next couple of years. But if we can lock them in for a couple of years and we're still satisfied, have the ability to do that.
I think it's a good idea.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I think as long as you actually have the capabilities to actually take care of some of the concerns that's been addressed, I think it's not a bad.
Yeah, I think if we tighten up the contract language and include, like I said, like a liquidated damages clause where if it's so much time has elapsed and you haven't responded and haven't met the contractual obligation, that way there's some actual penalty that they would have to pay the town, we would probably see a little bit more responsiveness. So that was our hope.
And I know it's actually laid out for right now. The contract is for certain roads and square footage, right, as far as for length and stuff like that. Definitely, as we mentioned, some of the situations seen last year with crosswalks and the ability to get across the street over the tall bank. And it's not that we have a lot of snow anymore, but they do get pretty tall and icy at times, right? that'd be great, so.
Yeah, so the RFP was specific about crosswalks, so we were sure to include that in this year's bid.
All in favor?
Order passed, vote 7-0. Order 2023-177, amendments to Chapter 14, General Assistance Maximums and Appendices. This is a first reading, and we'll set the hearing.
Make that motion.
A second.
Totally out of control, so there's not a lot of discussion on it, right? So-
Yeah, this is the MMA model ordinance, and we adopt it as presented.
Is this a voice vote?
This is a roll call, yes.
We ready to vote?
Councillor Kane?
Yes.
Councillor Fellows?
Yes.
Councillor Keller?
Yes.
Councillor Larochelle?
Yes.
Councillor Lunt?
Yes.
Councillor Moore?
Aye.
Councillor Robichaud?
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. Order passed, vote 7-0. We'll set the public hearing for October 3rd. Order 2023-178, tax abatement for 406 Ridge Road.
Make a motion for discussion.
Second?
So this one got added today. The assessor brought to our attention that the property owner here was being assessed on 15 acres when the actual acreage is a half acre. So the assessor is requesting the ability to abate up to 1 year. Well, we can abate up to 1 year, but 3 years with the approval of the municipal officers. So to approve the abatements of taxes for 406 Ridge for $893.73 and for $934.17 for the 2022-2023 tax year.
Sounds pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Any more discussion? Is this a roll call?
No.
All in favor?
Order passed, vote 7-0.
Just a quick question, was that the other acreage on another parcel, or was it just over?
That one got
I figured.
added to the agenda today, so me and Amy didn't get into too much detail on it.
Okay.
So she just wanted to correct the mistake and get it on for tonight so we can...
I did ask her about it.
so
Yeah.
you have more info?
Evidently, it's a typographical error that was made at some point, and the property owner didn't notice it, and from that point forward, the assessor wouldn't know.
Yep, understand. I was just wondering if it was something I'd shared at one point in time. Thank you.
Next item is other business, council committee reports.
School committee?
This must be an old.
It's an old one.
It is, I'm sorry.
I've got the school committee. So the school committee met Monday a week ago, and a lot of updates from different department directors. Technology director updated on recent and upcoming improvements. Nutrition director informed about fresh fruit and veggie programs, free breakfast, lunch, and snack options, and about a composting program. Facilities repair, update information and playground renovations. Student services update with the numbers of special ed students and staff openings. The athletics and co-curricular update. Excuse me. They're working on an eligibility policy for sports and busing for activities. And there was a call to the public for donations of lightly used sports equipment. They want to stock a closet for kids who are limited from participation due to an inability to afford necessary supplies. So if anybody has any lightly used sporting goods that they want to donate, they can donate that to the school. Superintendent update included enrollment information, a budget update, a facilities update, and they concluded with a listing of staffing changes, summary from over the summer.
Thank you for that very informative report.
Comprehensive.
Planning board.
Planning board met last week and held several public hearings, all of which were a lot like ours, not well attended. But of them, and then they acted on the Ancient York Lodge conditional use permit, which was passed, and now the Ancient York building is, I think that's what the developer wanted in order to make so he could close on the property. But beyond that, he has to come up with a subdivision plan for the building and he's currently planning on 8 units in there. That'll come before later. Most of the other part of the planning board concerned amendments to Chapter 70, which were bulk and space standards, the table of land uses, and accessory dwelling units, all of which has to do with LD 2003 that was passed this year by the legislature. That thing, they held an amendment on it, held a hearing on it, and it was passed, and it will be before the council, I believe, at our next meeting, and our contracted planner will be here to help explain those things to the council. And that's all I have.
The Ancient York Lodge, is that going to be half commercial and half residential?
No,
or
all residential.
Oh, it's all residential?
It's 8 units, and 2 of them, I believe, are 2 floors over the area where the lodge was or the ceremonial room was. I think the intention is to put a floor back in there to restore the outside of the building to pretty much what it was, with all windows and no bricked up places. It should be a significant addition to the town.
So the ceremonial room is just going to be an apartment?
Yes, 2 of them.
Terrible.
I don't know where.
I got raised there.
I don't know where all the accoutrements are going, but
82 or something like that.
yeah, I remember it too. So.
That's too bad. And what about the bowling alley? What's going on with that? Do we know?
Other than driving by and see somebody all of a sudden doing something in there, I don't know what he's
Taking shrubs out, dirt.
Ripping the siding.
Something's better than nothing.
They're ripping weeds. And
Yeah.
So it looks like they're moving on something.
Lisbon Development Committee.
All right, I wasn't able to make the last meeting, but I don't know if Ross has any update on anything that's going on there.
Good afternoon, Ross Cunningham, Economic Development. Just to touch on your last project, the bowling alley is getting cleaned up and renovated. They'll get some new front windows to it, and then separate a front section that he hopes to be able to lease out. So we're working on something there. And then he hasn't determined what he's doing with the back section yet, but hope to see that with a facelift over the next couple weeks.
Is he still considering a second floor?
Not at this time.
No.
So, we met last week as a committee, still talking about our primary focus of the parking lot space down at Warumbo, working through some plans that we've received, and we'll be meeting again on October 11th. Thank you.
Conservation Commission. I was in Virginia, so I wasn't here for the meeting. However, I did receive a call from Ross Belanger from, I believe, Cotton Road or Ferry Road, one or the other of Lewiston, the Belanger farm. And he was complaining that the deer have been destroying a lot of his crops. And apparently a part of that is abutting Beaver Park. So he's looking at being able to eradicate some of the deer there. And he attended the meeting. I don't know what came of it. I know that he was there. And they are looking at moving forward on the forest management plans in Beaver Park and other areas in town. So that's it. Parks and Rec.
I was not able to attend the meeting, but I did talk to Mark, the rec director. He had mentioned that we're going to have an overview, I guess, an update to the committee from the Moxie event, which we'll kind of lean out to him and maybe even to Glenn to say maybe it'd be nice to, once they get that all put together, come in front of the council and just give an update on it. They are working with Glenn as far as on the new changes to their, I'd like to call them bylaws, but they're really not. They're actually in our charter, so they're working rules. What are you officially calling the changes?
So they're actually part of the ordinance, because me and Don actually had some discussion about, because some of it is discussed in the charter, but these are actually ordinance changes. But the council set goals, and we can get to it when we get to the discussion item if you want.
Yep.
And we can touch on it there.
That's fine. Yep, I just wanted to mention that that's one of the things they were talking about during the committee, and that's it.
County Budget Committee. I was in Virginia. Mark, did you get a chance?
I have a chance
anything
to
go?
get over there now.
I will be going to the meeting tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock at the county building.
Oh, good.
Oh, that's good. Yes.
Library Governing Board.
The library has welcomed our new children's librarian, Christine Allen, who's doing a fantastic job. On Monday, we had, for seniors only, of course, the SpringWorks tour, which was extremely interesting, and I would encourage everyone to tour and listen to. Well, you get to meet tilapia and lettuce, and you learn how they flow together, and then what they're doing locally, providing lettuce to the stores around and making sure that they're planning ahead for the future, and they're putting a new greenhouse in, which they'll have a ribbon cutting at the beginning of the year, I believe. So try it, you'll like it.
Thank you. Water Commission.
Same thing as has been going on. They're thoroughly involved with corrosion control. They've added the chemicals and the chlorine to begin with to the water, and predictably gotten numerous conversations with the complaints and otherwise. I think they expected it, and but they're dealing with it, and we're getting pipes slowly cleaned.
Good. Finance Committee.
We have nothing to report.
Next item.
Next item is the town manager's report.
So we'll start with the one action item. So I'd sent along a memorandum requesting authorization for an enforcement action. I'm just going to read the language of the motion, and if there's any discussion, that's fine. So the code enforcement officer, having notified the council of violations of the zoning ordinance at 71 Gould Road, move that the manager is authorized to institute an action against Mr. Roberts for land use violations in the name of the town of Lisbon in the main district court. So you'd be authorizing me to institute an action against the property owner to bring this property into compliance. This has started predating interim manager McGee back to the previous town manager back in 2021. So we've had a notice of violation issued. We've done an administrative consent agreement that the property owner agreed to the terms and was in default of that. And then even another amendment to that administrative consent agreement to give them more time to bring the property into compliance that they had signed, and they're now in default of that. So now we are requesting to go in front of a judge for a consent order to give this a little bit more teeth to get this property into compliance.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? I'm looking at the consent agreement, and this has been ongoing for a couple of years, and it was a really bad mess up there. And I see I guess I see his response was need 5 rain day. Is that because of the rain?
So we have given him some extensions, and he's had some mitigation, but it's still a problem.
Yeah.
And we've given him more than those 5 rain days, so
right.
He's had going on 2 years now. So
yeah,
a few.
Yeah, and I won't get into the details of the conversations we've had because it's not relevant. But
sure. All in favor?
Order pass, vote 7-0.
Okay. A couple other things, and I know you had brought up earlier the Conservation Commission with the deer thing. I have received notification from the chief that he's also reached out to the Warden Service for recommendations, so we may be receiving some correspondence from the Warden Service on their recommendations on how to also address those concerns. So stay tuned, you may hear from them as well. The McGee Construction is, so this is another request actually for action. Sorry, Lisa, didn't make it to the agenda, got it late. To close Bibber Street, I'm requesting a 2-week closure for the dates to be determined. McGee will provide a 48-hour notice for the closure. It should take between 4 and 12 working days. This is to remove ledge. And I can go into more detail with Shane if you need it, but this is, again, they're requesting 2-week closure to remove ledge on Bibber Street.
Are they going to dynamite it?
I can pull up his email about the details of what they're doing, but I just kind of went off the chief's. They were discussing it back and forth what they're going to be doing. So the manhole being open and
Second. I think we're at a point in time where we got to give them all the help they can because the year's coming to a quick end and the weather's going to start changing pretty quick. And my only concern at all with any of the road closures was to make sure that the bus has adequate opportunity to get in and get out. I'm not sure with a dead-end road if that's, as long as they have it worked out, I mean, that's the biggest concern I have, safety in the school buses. So.
I know they notified Alan. He did not respond to that thread, so I don't know what the plan is for the school buses, but I can reach out to staff and the chief and see what.
It's not that long of a walk to the end of the road, so I mean, it's not, it's not like 5 miles uphill in snow, so I mean, I think we're in pretty good shape. But
I know he's been notified, so I'm sure they've worked out whatever they need to work out.
Yeah, but besides that, I think anything we can give them to actually help move along the project, I think they'd be very thankful for, because I think between the rain days and everything else has been a very challenging year for construction.
Yeah, so they may not even need the full 2 weeks. They're just asking for up to 12, could be 4 days. So.
And ledge makes sense if you ever turned onto Bibber Street off of Main. It's just a giant rock right there in front of you.
Okay. So do they need to?
So we need a motion.
Actually, I made a motion. Don seconded it.
Okay.
All in favor?
Thank you. So at the last meeting, we talked about the Ferry Road bond. Staff is still pricing out what the Ridland Road paving would be, and Councilor La Rochelle has a great memory because this same question came up in 2015, and our bond council did remember. So you're not. So the recommendation is obviously not to use proceeds to repay principal. It is a narrow and poorly understood rule that has not been tested in court. Our bond counsel would be very interested to see someone try and sue the IRS to figure it out, but he does not think it is wise to attempt to pay back the principal with the proceeds. So our options are to pave Ridland Road, and then we can also make an interest payment. We also have some alternatives where we could maybe do like an escrow deference, where if we can, exceed the debt service interest with some interest bearing, we can pay down some more principal. But some recommendations in the future, because we've historically done this way and we end up with some extra proceeds, we can in the future consider doing a bond anticipation note at a higher interest, and then we convert that to permanent financing, so that way we actually only draw down on what we're actually borrowing. But because of the way we bonded, that's just those are our two options.
It's pretty rare that we ever get a project that comes in under budget, so I mean, it's probably doesn't happen very often.
So you usually build in like a 10 to 15% contingency, I guess, and but some borrowers and other municipalities, they'll do the note so that way they're only borrowing what they need, and then they can convert it, and it may be more efficient over the life of the loan, but we can talk about the next time we have to borrow money. Other than that, that is all for my town manager's report. Actually, I circulated a memo from Ross earlier today. I don't know if you read it, but he's graced us with his presence, so he can just give you an update in person.
Again, Ross Cunningham, Economic Community Development. Just wanted to update you on the revolving loan you approved for Blue Ox. Shortly after you approved it, the Grow Maine program realized they had not yet received the quarterly money from the federal government. And so they put a hold on all applications until they get that money, which they still don't have. In the meantime, the company has gone out and found some additional investing to help keep the project moving forward without this money. So they are still interested in using this money from us, probably not at the level we approved, maybe a slightly smaller amount. And both AvCog and CEI are still involved and on board. We're just waiting for Grow Maine to receive the funding from the federal government to move that forward. That's why you haven't seen any movement on that at all. But they are progressing forward. Minor implications that we're dealing with, but they are moving forward with that renovation.
Good.
Any questions?
No.
That's all for
Good.
my town manager's report. Yep.
All right. We've already had the county commissioners update. Next item is Town Code Section 92-5, an inventory and review of tax acquired properties.
Do you have to make a motion for discussion? I can just go right into it.
Just something actually we're going to vote on, or?
So there are a couple of recommendations. So we're asking to waive. So yeah, let me talk a little bit about it. There are two that are no action, but there is one that you'll require action. So the town code requires we maintain this inventory when these liens mature. So there are two properties that have an unpaid sewer lien, and the town code section 92-6 requires all back taxes and fees to be paid to get out of foreclosure. Previous staff did not adhere to this policy by allowing property owners to only pay the lien amount that caused the foreclosure, which became an expectation. So people do this every year now, including this property owner and the other. So the recommendation is for council to waive section 92-6 and allow the property owner to pay the lien amount only to remove the foreclosure, and then we will then warn them that this will not be continued in the future in this practice.
I make a motion. I'm not sure if there's an action item on that, or was that more just a point?
That's the action, yeah, to waive section 92-6 to allow them to pay the lien, the most recent lien, to avoid foreclosure, and then we can let them know that the next time we will be requiring all the taxes that will be paid.
I'll make a
in full.
motion for the discussion on what he just said.
And I'll second the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which property is it?
This is two. It's
It's in Martin.
629 Lisbon Street and 5 Nason.
Both of these.
Yes.
One's on 196 and the other one's on Mason Street.
There's, yeah, I guess the biggest thing would just be to make the statement and to set the rule that it's actually has to be done as our rules pertain, right? I mean, we typically try not to make, changes, but I know it's been, as you mentioned, it's been done in the past a little bit, so you hate to set a precedent that way, but especially if they get quite high, right? Because sewer rates could, I mean, not sewer rates, but the billing itself could add up over a period of time, sometimes higher than the tax lien, right? So,
I have a question too. On both of those, what are the liened amounts? Because I see different figures.
So I only have the total lien amounts.
The reason I ask is because it says the amounts owed are as of August 30th and includes the 2024 property taxes that are not yet made, and I'm wondering why if that's liened already.
So I think the sewer owed amounts are what has been liened, and then there's just the total for taxes owed to date.
So it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
to me, as long as you have a plan moving forward, I think that'd be the most important part.
So the unpaid sewer liens are from December of 2021?
Correct. And I guess staff historically has been allowing them to pay the lien amount to get out of foreclosure, and then they let it float till the next time. But the town code is pretty explicit in that we are not able to do that. So I ask you to waive it one more time and ask the council instead of just doing it. And then going forward, we will implement
The water department has it
policy
much
that
easier because
exists.
they can just go turn a knob and shut the water off and wait for payment.
Yeah.
The sewer is a little bit more difficult, but I guess we got to try to get it when we can, right?
Do we need any kind of a consent or anything, or just his acknowledgement that we're going to enforce the law next time?
Yeah, and that's what the finance department will be doing when we settle up with these folks. That this is, the final time this will happen, and next time you owe what you owe.
Anything further? All in favor?
Order passed, vote 7-0.
And the others, there's no action on these. This one is 7 Farnsworth Street. So this is a property that was already foreclosed on by the USDA. The USDA has been paying the sewer bills. Just going to recommend that the attorney do a title search to verify the information that the USDA owns the property and start to establish contact with the USDA and deal with them before moving forward with the foreclosure. And then the last one was one that you've already approved for the disposition of. And the town sent notice to the property owner in January. no further action was taken, so we're just going to send a new notice and move forward as planned.
So Farnsworth Street, is that tax still owed?
Yeah, that's the,
And the USDA going to pay that?
and the USD has been paying that, but we are trying to get in touch with them, I guess, on the sewer lien.
Anything else?
Not on that one, no.
Next item? Are you finished?
With that, yeah, well, then we got the next one.
Okay.
Next item is advisory board revisions discussion.
Okay, so council identified some goals to have staff review the advisory boards. Some of them have some dated language, refer to when we had town meeting form of government. Staff at the library and staff at rec have reviewed and made recommendations. This went in front of the rec committee as well. So this is just a discussion, give you a chance to review some of these recommendations. I have a third recommendation. One is that we have a technology committee. I have no record of it ever meeting. I don't know if you all have ever met with the technology committee. My recommendation is to just repeal it. I think staff can handle it as part of our capital budget, so we can work that out through the...
I believe it was actually just staff related. It was a committee of department heads and of...
I think there was a citizen committee, but back in the 90s or something,
Yeah.
like way back, and it just, kind of petered out. People stopped going, and it kind of dissolved, but never
I
officially.
just remember recommendations from
Yeah.
staff in the sense of we pretty much get together as a committee to determine what they needed for a new computer at the main office, right? So.
And that makes sense, but the ordinance says that you appoint 7 members to serve on the committee, and I don't think that's ever happened that I can see in recent history. So I would...
I was on that committee, and that was when the police department updated their software, and we made some pretty major purchases. Also in the town, when we started adding servers and our own backup systems and all that stuff. So it was pretty intense during that period of time. I'm not so sure that I would like to see it go away. I mean, we might be able to move it to an ad hoc committee as needed. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah,
So we don't have to stand it back up again in case we decide we want to, revamp but we still have issues with Trio and
You can create an
Yeah.
ad hoc committee for any issue at any
Right.
time, so it doesn't have to be in writing that you can just repeal that and say, hey, we have a need for a technology committee for the upcoming budget season, and create one.
Okay.
I believe she's
Disregard
taking-
everything I just said.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item.
So that's one of the 3. So Recreation Committee reviewed. See, there's some language there. And again, this is just discussion, so you can take time to digest this, read it, talk about it tonight, or you can take it home and shoot me an email individually, and then staff can prepare more revisions, and we'll eventually introduce it to amend the ordinances to be more in line with the committees are actually doing. Just some history, the way the library is written, it's written as a governance board, that they're actually elected. It refers to a town meeting, which doesn't happen anymore. And the rec committee is set up more as a governance board when it's really truly an advisory board. So just for language to reflect what they're actually doing and have been doing since, in their actual operations. So, yeah.
The rec department, when that was actually put together, is much different than the rec department now. I mean, it serves much different programs and people, and so yeah. I mean, I think an update is definitely needed.
Cool. So again, if there's no discussion, staff will keep plugging away on this, and the next meeting we can introduce it as a first reading to make those ordinance changes. But if you have any feedback either between now and then, just let me know.
Very good. Next item.
Next item is an appointment. We have the appointment of a tax assessor. And the motion would be to appoint Amy Wires, formerly Assistant Tax Assessor, to the Office of Tax Assessor.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Order passed, vote 7-0.
Next item.
Council Communications.
I just have one thing, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I would like to ask, what's the situation with Village Street and finishing the project for the sidewalks and the curb areas?
So if
I
we
know
don't
it's
get
been
the
paved.
we don't get the 8 days of rain that Ross told me about next week, the plan was for next week. So pending weather next week.
Okay, I was just hoping it wasn't something that we're doing as a town. It's done as the contractor's doing it, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Anything else?
I'll actually add something. It's I didn't know whether to do it early or not, but I know Ross has had a lot of skin in the game here lately down at the Arumbo site. There's actually the town that got the grant for the green space, and there's a lot of loam, a lot of clay, a lot of work gone in, and some hydroseeding, and the weather really hasn't been that fair. It has, because we've got wetness, but just abundance of it at certain times. And if anybody drives by, it's actually looking green and fuzzy, and it's actually looking pretty good. And we have a council that's taking daily videos, so we'll have a,
Not daily.
No. Yeah. And the only thing I can make a request to the public is it is growing grass and fresh soil, so please, if you're down at the Rumble site, try not to drive on it, walk on it, or do any other activities on it. So
Stay
it's,
off
as much as we put up barriers and caution tapes, people seem to drive over them and drive over the lawn. So I know Ross would sleep better at night if he knew that people weren't driving over the newly seeded lawn. So, but it is going to be really beautiful. I mean, it's going to be a nice green space, soft. You'll be able to run and fall down without breaking a leg, hopefully. You know. So. Thank you.
Oh, and I just wanted to say that I think the road construction is going very well, given all the rain and everything that's happened, and the drainage on Main Street is much better, even without paving in that particular section. So I think they're doing a great job.
Good job to McGee Construction. Good job to McGee Construction, right?
Right. And all associates.
Yeah, that's right. Anything else? I would like to recognize that on September 1st, Sergeant Jason St. Pierre of the Lisbon Police Department walked out of the PD after 25 years of service, and he is to be congratulated for his service. Maybe he'll be hearing more from the council soon on that.
Served us well.
So congratulations.
Lost the good one.
Yeah, did a great job. Good patrol officer, sergeant, K-9 officer ×2, SRO officer, did it all. Dispatcher for a number of years, did a great job. I miss him. Anything else? Nothing else? Next item.
Audience participation and response to new items.
Audience? Nothing? Next item?
To adjourn.
So moved.
A second.
All in favor? We're adjourned.
8:38.
We are still live.
Just so you know.
Just so you know.